Brothers and sisters, if a quarterback would be asked, who's the most important offensive lineman? The quarterback would almost always answer, it is the left tackle. You see, I'm right-handed, and when I go back to pass, my left side is my blind side. If the left tackle does not protect me when I go back to pass, I will not only get clobbered, but I will be blindsided. That's the way life is. We frequently get blindsided. It does not always have positive results, like the conversion of St. Paul or the training of Luke Skywalker by Yoda. Blindsiding can be terrible. That's the nature of many auto accidents. That's the nature of many storms whose magnitude exceed the hoped-for limits. That's the nature of so many hate crimes and terrorist shootings and bombings. That's even the nature of why we're very cautious on Halloween about some of the candy and the fruit that our children receive. Catastrophic blindsiding changes our culture. And yet, we do get blindsided in many different ways. We and our loved ones often get blindsided by illness. We go to get a physical checkup, and we feel fairly normal going in. And yet sometimes something very seriously shows up in the test results. Even visiting in a friend's home, we sometimes do not notice the change in the floor level from one room to the next. We might miss a step that we just did not see or expect would be there, and we wipe out. We are blindsided by that slight change of altitude. A middle-aged man checks the stock market one fine morning and discovers that his investments have plummeted. He might even say, I should have seen it coming, but I did not. I was blindsided. We get blindsided when someone hacks into our computer and tries to take advantage of our name. We get blindsided. Sometimes we think all is fairly normal in our families, and then suddenly an issue arises which explodes and instantly drives a wedge between us and our loved ones. We are blindsided. We make a commitment to resist sin, to resist the near occasion of sin. And while watching TV or a movie, a virtually irresistible temptation presents itself. We are blindsided. We seek to take some quiet time in prayer, and suddenly the memory of past sins and stupidity floods us with so much guilt and shame that we cannot see our way to pray or reach out to God. We are blindsided by the power of the past that haunts us and which we cannot forget. Many people thought the church was finished with the scandals related to the sexual abuse perpetrated by priests, and so we were blindsided by the Pennsylvania grand jury's revelations. And so the stories of date rape, sexual abuse, and the exposure of respected community leaders' abusive behavior is also a blindsiding, often on a horrific level. Blindsiding hits us with the crunch of a 300-pound defensive end smashing us to the ground. We are blindsided by discovering we become an object of gossip. We are blindsided when a trusted friend betrays us. We are blindsided when we are expected to perform a task at work which is beyond our job description and beyond our skill set. The list goes on. It seems that even God blindsides us at times. In the early part of his career, the prophet Jeremiah seems to be a great example of this. He says, I was duped. You duped me, O Lord. I've been blindsided by you. Common sense and the infinite sense of Jesus reminds us to be prepared for the unexpected, to do what we can to prevent being blindsided. But you know, it still happens. That's the nature of life. Perhaps the example of the man in the gospel passage gives us a light in the midst of the vulnerability of our dark side. The man had nothing but blindness. He was blind. He could not see at all. Every side was blind. He could not move. It seemed. But then, when he sensed Jesus, when he heard the voice of Jesus was like a magnet. And he moved, and he spoke. He got up. He came to Jesus. He saw with the eyes of faith. He had the courage to move forward, and he had the wisdom to speak of his need. With his faith, he knew that he was more than his blindness. He trusted that Jesus could help him to overcome his disability. He was not controlled by the rejection of the crowd and their attempts to shush him. No one deserves to be blindsided. But as best we can, we do what we can to get up from those times when we've been blindsided, to draw from the Holy Spirit within, and to see, first and foremost, with the eyes of faith, to trust that our God will give us the ability to live in a new way. Brothers and sisters, each of the four Gospels reaches its climax as Holy Week begins. As Jesus walks into the city of Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. Then all starts breaking loose during this Holy Week. In the Gospel of Mark, this narrative that we've just heard about the healing of the blind man is the last action that Jesus does before entering the city of Jerusalem. It's like the culminating act of mercy and power of Jesus in his ministry as he now moves to his mission of redeeming us, of giving himself and rising from the dead. And so, upon being healed, the blind man follows Jesus. It's striking, Jesus says to the blind man upon his healing of him, "Go your way." And it's almost like the blind man says, "No, I'm not going to go my way. I'm going to go your way." He follows Jesus. He cannot see what he's getting into as he follows Jesus, as he walks with Jesus. But he knows that walking with Jesus will be the ultimate of what it is to walk in any way, and that he wants to make his way the way that Jesus is guiding him. And so he walks with Jesus into Jerusalem, into the danger that holds, but ultimately into the glory that offers. Jesus himself will be blindsided. He's going to be blindsided by some of the sufferings that he will experience on Good Friday. And yet he will remain true to his mission. He will remain true to his spirit of faith and love. Finally, I'd like to offer just one more side point. As the blind man encounters Jesus, the crowd has two extremes. If we put ourselves into this reading, of course, we can be like the blind man, but we also realize that we can be like a member of the crowd. And the crowd has two extremes. They tell the blind man to be silent and they rebuke him because they think he's bothering Jesus. He's taking Jesus away from his journey, from his mission. But then things change. They see and sense this interchange between Jesus and the blind man. And so then they tell the blind man to have courage because Jesus is calling him. They encourage him to go to Jesus. The crowd. It's a preview of the fickleness of the Holy Week crowd and perhaps of our own fickleness. The Holy Week crowd. They welcome Jesus into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, and on Good Friday, they call for his execution. They know who Jesus is, they deny who Jesus is. As we read and pray with this gospel passage, I believe that we are reminded of our ministry to be that best side of the crowd. That we are reminded that not only have we been blindsided sometimes by life's terrible surprises, but we need to hold people who are blindsided in our hearts, to bring them to Jesus. And we need to encourage our brothers and sisters who've been blindsided to come to Jesus, to come to the Good Shepherd, to come to the one who is the light of the world. Jesus has said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and find life burdensome." In effect, in this passage, he is saying, "Come to me, all you who are blind. Come to me, all of you who have been blindsided. Come to me, and I will give you rest."